Hello, everyone. I am Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Running to Write, where I give questionable writing advice through running metaphors. And yeah, full disclosure, tonight, it's going to be a long one. I wasn't here last week. I was on vacation, so I had a pre-recorded episode ready to go. And yeah, there has been a lot to catch up on. I got a nice little package in the mail, and for those of you who've been following me, I have no idea what this is because I have no books out, but I have a nice little surprise in here, which I'll unwrap for you all, which is awesome. I also have one announcement about this channel, which is really cool. And let's see here. Richard, as always, thank you. It is a Monday night. It is late as hell for you, and I appreciate that you're here. You are awesome. Devin, thank you for joining in. I can see that you love Avatar, which is great. And yeah, I do too. I remember thoroughly enjoying this. I feel like it came out when I was in college. I mean, it's definitely on the air when I was in college. It might have been on the air when I was in high school, but I'm kind of drawing a blank on the whole timeline thing. But I'm not going to bury the lead because, well, this is Sparta. And by that, I mean I am checking out my dashboard and we have officially hit 300 subscribers right here on Running to Write, which is incredible. That is awesome. That is the best way to come back from, I'm still on vacation technically through tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be really, really rough coming back into the real world. But this is something really cool for me to just have happen, I guess. So thank you everyone out there for watching my videos, for subscribing, for just being awesome, and for coming here week in and week out and hanging out as we discuss random pop culture and how it pertains to our writing process, or if you're here on my productivity sprints, or whatever episode you watch, thank you. So it's all really, really cool. And let's see. I mean, I got a script, but I'm going to go off script because there's too much stuff to go through. So I guess I can save this little surprise for the end if you want to wait for it. And I will jump right into discussing Avatar. The live action Avatar, The Last Airbender, came out and it's better than I thought it would be. That is a huge surprise. It carries many of the same emotional beats as the original show. Its pace is certainly a lot faster than the source material, the original. And that's both a great strength, but also one of the many problems. And I say it with a huge asterisk because there's 2 or 3 episodes where the plot comes to a halt. So at Aang, not Ang, because this isn't the abomination that is the movie. But thankfully, they learned from that director's hubris and decided to go with Aang. Anyways, the plots pause so that Aang can travel across the world and be back in less than a day, because that's the only way that they could come up with to do an exposition dump that wasn't necessarily needed for this season, but it goes along with the show, and it's just kind of a mess from a logistical standpoint, from a plot standpoint, from a character development standpoint. Anyways, the live action show never devoted enough time to consider each major plot beat or character struggle before jumping to the next. It was like a Cliff Notes version of the original. The live action show is good, but not one of the pinnacles of modern storytelling like the OG series. That being said, I want to focus on certain aspects that make the original so outstanding. And I'm going to start with tonight. This will be the first of several videos I call Learning from Storytelling's Best, or Learning from the Best for short. My goal is to share what made my favorite works of art work, how it works so well, and how we can adapt their successes into our writing. And yeah, I had a fun writing session today, so I'll say I'm done with the 3rd chapter in my 4th book. I don't necessarily like how the chapter ends. I think I need just one more sentence to sort of close it out, because there's this nice little verbal confrontation, and then the main character kind of retreats and is like, well, I'll be back later, which feels kind of like a villain thing of like, you'll get me next time. But yeah, anyways, obviously spoilers ahead for Avatar the Last Airbender. And this is my focus for tonight. I'm focusing on specifically Zuko and why his redemption arc is one of the best in fiction. These are my 5 tips to writing a well thought out, well crafted, and just phenomenal redemption arc. Before we get started, I am going to say hi. Yeah. Richard, yeah, thanks to you. I actually have half of a script ready about my thoughts. They're entirely negative for some of the recent Star Wars material that has been out there. It is, I don't know how far I'm going to go into it, but definitely the spin-offs, the new series. I haven't watched Acolyte. I have no interest in watching Acolyte, but Ahsoka was terrible. Did not enjoy it at all. I spent most of the episodes with my wife just yelling at the screen of like, if this happens, then logically this shouldn't happen, but it's happening here. And the point is, that's a long rant for future. But yeah, I am not a fan of any recent Star Wars material. Also, Justiva, thank you for joining us. And yeah, sorry, what I was going with the Star Wars is that it is for future episodes. So I got a couple of these learning from the best episodes, and then I'm going to come up with a learning. I have a follow-up already titled Learning from the Worst, and that's just going to be a rant about Star Wars and how not to do character development or villains or really anything along those lines. So, anyways, redemption arcs. Number 1, make it a winding path. The path to redemption is never a straight road. That's true in real life, although I don't know how many redemption arcs we have. And that's doubly important for the characters we write. We want to keep them interesting. The paths to redemption need to meander. They have to circle back onto themselves. And season 2 of Avatar focuses and primes us, the audience, to root for Zuko as he's in the middle of his redemption arc. So in the first season, he's the villain. His entire motivation is based around bringing in the Avatar, capturing the Avatar. And because of the events of season 1, he is now kind of abandoned. And so he's left with his uncle, who is slowly turning him more and more into a good character. He feels remorse for his actions in season 1, and he helps those who he harmed in the previous season. More importantly, he realizes that the Fire Nation is not justified in its assault on the rest of the world. In these pivotal moments, in a pivotal moment within season 2, he is offered his wildest dreams. Throughout season 1, like I said, every one of his actions, every person he put in harm's way, every time he risked his own life along with everyone around him, it was to reclaim his honor and place at his father's side by capturing the Avatar. By the climax of season 2, we were primed up to think he had absolved himself of that desire based on the new friends he made and the way he acts. Except when pushed into this corner with, honestly, kind of an impossible choice to make, he chooses to fall back on his old goals and betrays his uncle. Zuko was well on the way to his redemption, only to slip. And over season 3, we see that he's changed through his journey, and everything he thought he wanted is no longer what he actually wants. Only then in season 3 does he realize what his honor cost him, or trying to reclaim his honor has cost him, and that he made the wrong choice at the end of season 2. This is one of the many moments which prove he's a perfect villain turned protagonist. With that realization, he rejects his father and the honor he once valued above all else. Zuko defied all his family and friends, and he knows what side and what he wants to believe in now. So he didn't make a 180-degree turn from villain to good guy. He was a dynamic character who evolved over time, and not always for the better. Like I said, it was a winding path. He slipped into old habits. He made mistakes. And he hoped that he would find the way to undo his bigger mistakes. Yes, I completely agree, Devin. Redemption arcs are slippery slopes. Oh, Devin, this is awesome. I might need to talk to you about after the learning from the worst. We should probably talk Star Wars. We can figure something out. Anyways, yeah. So yes, I completely agree. 4, 5, and 6. OG too. I know I grew up in the special editions, and for a while they had a special place in my heart because those were the only those were the first Star Wars movies I saw in theaters, and then we had the prequels. But now that I'm older and am no longer dazzled by shiny objects, I do think that the unaltered editions of 4, 5, and 6 are far superior to anything that comes after with George Lucas's tweaks, and that is a case in point of how you should not mess with perfection and how sometimes trying to tweak things only makes them worse. Which is why I'm okay with leaving my books 1 and 2 as they are, because I know they are far from perfect, but I think that anything I would really change, there's a couple of small details I would like to alter, but I think that that would have vastly different ramifications for the rest of the series. Anyways, number 2 with redemption arcs and how to write them. They should never be easy. Zuko is defined by overcoming the hardships thrown at him. Even when in the brief moments where things seem to be going right for him, he still struggles. He officially rejected his father and became a probational member of Team Avatar. His arc seems to be concluded as they race to the final conclusion. He has, at that point in the series, he has gone through enough struggles, knows what he wants, abandons his family, and tries to join the good guys, Team Avatar. Except at that point, his magic, his firebending is no longer working. And this leads to an entire episode devoting to him finding out what's wrong and regaining his abilities. So even after defying everything that defined him, he joins Team Avatar, and you would think, hey, he's a good guy now, and this should be easy, but it's not. His firebending is tied to his convictions, and since he's no longer hunting the Avatar, he lost that magic within it. Therefore, he needs to look inside himself and find new resolve. This change wasn't easy, and he struggled with that conviction through the series climax. As a villain, he struggled and course corrected. And as a hero, he struggled and course corrected as well. Number 3, Battle of Ideologies for redemption arcs. The final explosive fight between Zuko and his sister was nothing short of chaos versus control. Better than that, Zuko knows he couldn't win under normal conditions, except he understands his sister, his rival, the person I guess he did kind of look up to her. She was always the prodigy, the one who was better than him. Even though he was older, he was always compared to her he was always in her shadow, and people compared him to her with looking more favorably on his younger sister. But having gone through the same challenges that she faced, all that immense pressure of everyone looking up to him and her, well, he understands how she became unhinged. And yes, because his sister at that point is unhinged, she is much more dangerous, but that also makes her careless in a way that Zuko can exploit in a fight. After a lifetime of being overshadowed by his younger sister, his younger prodigy sister, he's able to finally fight her on even footing because he has gained something that she lost, which is control. They clash physically, even as they clash over ideologies. One side is fighting for duty and the other for justice. Sure, one side is clearly right in that Zuko is fighting for freedom, whereas Azula is fighting for power. And at that point, she's on the side that is trying to take over the world through violence, which is obviously never right. But there's a lot of meaning in this fight that kind of creates a gray area if you boil it down to just duty versus justice. Excluding everything that's happening around the fight, obviously. Um, there are battling ideologies which are conflicting, and they conflict in interesting ways. So Zuko only won here because he wasn't alone. Unlike his sister, Zuko cared for someone else, and he sacrificed his body to protect that other person who then ultimately finished the fight for him. So creating battling ideologies is really, really interesting. And not only did Zuko have his redemption arc, but we saw what could have been had he stayed in the Fire Nation. In his sister is a version of Zuko who could have been. Now, yes, a lot of things need to go wrong for her to reach that point, or for him to have reached that point, but it's very interesting to see them fight, both physically and through their emotions, as well as the ideologies that are backed up behind them. Number 4, for redemption arcs, we want to make everything believable. Zuko's arc spans more than a full season of the show. I would never have believed season 1 Zuko would be on Team Avatar by season 3. I know, I remember watching it at the time, and people were thinking that might be possible because we knew that Aang had to learn firebending, and there was the deserter episode, which is pretty cool. So a lot of people thought that the Fire Nation deserter might ultimately be his teacher, but then that got rejected. And so we were kind of scrambling around to figure out and to predict who might be his teacher. And especially across season 2, it looked like Zuko would be that person, except then he fell back into his old ways. But that shift with Zuko to becoming a good person, it was never rushed. Had he swapped from, even at the end of season 2, to joining Team Avatar, I wouldn't have fully believed it. Yet that extra time in season 3 showing Zuko getting everything he thought he wanted and rejecting it, not being happy, well, that change from the beginning of season 3, yes, it is relatively condensed. I think in 4, maybe 6 episodes, he completely switches to trying to join Team Avatar. But there was season 1 in place before that. Season 2 was in place before that. And that backslide into Zuko's old life made him so much more realistic, tormented, and that much more interesting of a character. Going back to my point about not making it easy for our characters, we shouldn't make it easy on ourselves as writers to write a redemption arc. Life is never wrapped up in a tiny bow. Life is messy. My daily motivations vary and ebb and flow. On my writing journey, I backslide on plenty of days. I was lucky that today I had a great run, and I spent 2 hours cleaning up trash in my neighborhood because I was off today. It's my final day of vacation. And in that time, I was just mentally processing everything that I wanted to write to finish out my chapter, the events that were wanted to take place, and the place that I wanted to leave the characters at the end of it. Well, much like not making it easy for ourselves in life, we want to make things difficult for our characters to make them more believable. And there have been entire months where I wanted to write, where I was going to write, where I planned to write, and I did nothing of the sort in my spare time. Luckily today was different. Today it's easier on my days that are off, my PTO days, FTO, whatever you want to call it, where I can just set aside a specific hour to write. So it kind of worked out today. I'm all but guaranteed to not want to write tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be really, really crunched down with work and life and everything. But anyways, back to Zuko. His redemption arc was a journey. It wasn't just a single episode turn. There were cracks in his resolve during season 1 when he had to partner up with his enemy, Aang, and they each sort of saw what motivated the other person. And while they had While they were still obviously on opposite sides of a war and battle and ideologies, they found some common ground in that Zuko couldn't let somebody else get the honor he craved by capturing the Avatar, so he freed the Avatar, and then they have a couple of private moments together where they realize that, you know, to quote the cliche, they aren't actually that different from each other. They're both driven for different reasons, but they have a lot of shared commonalities. And that gave Zuko the insights into the Avatar as a person and not merely the means to ending his exile. And season 2 expanded on that compassion, and season 3 showed him still being betrayed by those he put faith in until he finally turns and decides to leave his home, the Fire Nation. At that point, we are not only expecting it, not only believing in every single action, but we are cheering and sympathizing with him because we could see ourselves in his shoes. Being able to relate to the villain is a tricky detail to write and convey within an audience. And that's going to bring me to my last point. Number 5, conflicted characters. Before we do that, I'm going to check out how the chat is going. So cool. Yeah. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, I told you about some of the stuff I was cleaning up, and it was pretty gross. I don't know the techno. Oh, I think the technical term is prophylactics. Use prophylactics. I think that might be what I'm trying to say here. Not really something I enjoy finding in the middle of the street, but luckily there wasn't actual poop. So, well, I mean, there was plenty of dog poop, which I cleaned up because people are terrible, but yeah. And yes, this was a wonderful phrase uttered by Aang. I want to say season 1. I don't know. Devin, you can easily correct me on that. Now, conflicted characters. And actually, building off of what Devin said, at the beginning, Zuko was alone. His mother fled, his sister tormented him, and he didn't have any friends. His uncle supported him, but that was overshadowed by the many conflicts Zuko needed to overcome. While I may not have made the same choices in Zuko's position, I very well might have, and I understand his reasoning and sympathize with the difficult choices he needed to make. Through the flashbacks, we understand the motivation driving Zuko to obsessively hunt the Avatar. Worse, we see that this was expected to be a wild goose chase. It was expected to fail. The fact that things ended up in Zuko's favor, I mean, that is, well, it kind of shows how sadistic Zuko's father truly is. And at this point in the story, the Avatar hadn't been seen in 100 years. He's expected to be dead or otherwise trapped. But this means that Zuko was sent into exile on a mission which he was never supposed to succeed in. It makes him conflicted and desperate and unique. All of that coming together in making him just a conflicted character that we are rooting for, but at the same time hate early on, and then we grow to really just enjoy when he's on screen. So I'm going to have, next week, I'll be going into how the team sort of fits together and learning from the best, in this case, through Avatar. And I'll be discussing how Zuko fits into the team and how he makes the team better. So those are my 5 tips on ramping up our villains or anti-heroes by putting them on the path to redemption. Now, with that said, we are wrapping up tonight's episode. But first, I want to promote this awesome book that is coming out next week by Richard Holiday. It is the sequel to his Price War. And yes, we'll get to the box. It's not Gwyneth Paltrow's head. But yeah, we have Price War by Richard Holiday. It's the sequel to his first book, Price War. So this is The Color of Money. And Oh yeah, sorry. Let me just jump to what Devin's saying. I think it was season 2 when Zuko woke up after being perfect. So yeah, so it was season 2 where that comes from. Zuko the Blue Spirit. I thought that was originally introduced in season 1, but yeah. So it was season 1. Cool. Perfect. That was when we didn't like Zuko, but then we sort of start slowly understanding him, and then season 2 we sort of slowly start to actually like him as a character, and then by season 3 we are all about Zuko joining Team Avatar and hoping that he can overcome the difficulties in doing so. But yeah, anyway, sorry, that was a rant. Back to Richard Holiday's upcoming book. So the first book is all about how a evil Google not Google corporation takes over, and then in book 2 it is trying to fight a war against a mega corporation. So it's kind of near science fiction future, in that they have some technology that doesn't quite exist yet, but this is kind of a dystopian near science fiction future story. I don't know how else to describe it without going into spoilers, but you have Danny Price, who is trying to go on his own redemption arc. Not that he's a villain, but he has to grow. And actually, yeah, you're right. There is a redemption arc in there where somebody who was a villain in the first book has to help Danny Price succeed, having realized that that character made a mistake. There's a whole lot of fun. It's a lovely adventure. It's pretty interesting thriller. There's a lot of excellent drama. It's very character focused, and I enjoyed the read. So it's up for pre-order. Thank you. It's right there. It's right in front of my face. It's up for pre-order right now. It'll officially be coming out next week, next Monday, the 29th or the 30th. And yeah, so check out, support Richard. He's awesome. Pre-order if you can. I already pre-ordered my copy. And with that, let's find out what's in the box. So we are doing a... There we go. You know what? I'll leave that for a little bit longer. Yeah. We're doing a live kind of a book reveal, actually, because while I cannot sell this book, I never set up the ISBNs, this was a fun little project of a hardback for my first book. So this, I actually have another copy upstairs, but this is awesome. This is not shiny. So the other option for that, it's a nice little sleeve covering for this. And yeah, so this is my first book. I can give away, I can give this thing freely away, so I can't sell my hard copy. But some really cool things about this are, like I said, it's first of all hardcover. And I did something interesting on the inside. So the sleeve is, let me see if I can get that better, reviews. I want to make this as personal as possible, so I took some of my favorite reviews by some of my friends and my wife, obviously, my uncle's in here. A lot of the people in AuthorTube and some of the people who have helped me along the way. So let's see. Like I said, Richard Holiday is here. We got Adriana. Both of them are in here. SD Houston's in here. Anne Malloy, J.M. Chaley. So your quotes made it into the sleeve of my book. Again, this is something I can probably give away as a prize, but this is awesome, and I try to make it as personal as possible, and I really do love this book. So this first book was obviously labor of love. My series is obviously labor of love, and it is such a wonderful feeling to see all of your thoughts about something I spent literally a decade and a half writing. So that is everything I wanted to say. Yeah, there's your review. Yeah, I'll just toss it over there. Book going down, and yes, hardcover of that. I am not. These are prohibitively expensive. I don't think anybody would spend $20 to buy the hardcover. So these might just be, I'll make a few of them and they'll just be prizes I give away at some point. But this one I'll obviously cherish somewhere in my house. I don't know exactly where I put it. It might just be behind me. And yeah, there's that. And of course, yes, my lovely wife. Yeah. So she actually did some really cool stuff with this cover because there wasn't, she had to extend the cover to make these inner sleeves and to make everything line up. So to do that, she just did some really cool AI magic within Photoshop to extend it. And yeah, Margaret, hey, thanks for joining us. And you are awesome. So yeah, like I said, I'm Ben Pick, and thank you for joining me in Writing to Write. I'm going to go find a place for this. Probably I'll just end up right behind. Probably I'll end up upstairs. Anyways, if you enjoyed this series about learning from the best, please press those like and subscribe buttons. I don't often say that. I don't often remember to say that, but go ahead and do it. Let me know in the comments how much you enjoyed Avatar the Last Airbender, the cartoon or the live action Netflix show, or possibly vent about the movie. I remember being on such high hopes for that movie. It looked awesome. And I went in there with one of my good friends, and we were just so thrilled to finally be seeing some live action treatment for a series that we love so much. And just coming out of the theater in like a fugue state and being like, wow, what I just watched was terrible. Anyways, I post my running and writing progress on Instagram and Twitter as Writing to Write. So be sure to follow me and join with your own thoughts. I hit 300 subscribers. So if you have friends who like writing, just give them a recommendation because I want to keep those numbers going up and up and up. I want to hit 500. I want to hit 1,000. I want to hit 10,000. Those goals will never be met, but it is awesome to hope. And yeah, don't forget to sign up for my Writing to Write monthly newsletter if you want regular updates. The link is in the description below, and it's the 24th that I'm recording this, live streaming it, whatever. The next one will be coming out on July 3rd. So it'll be a nice pre-July 4th Independence Day celebration. It'll be all about how I spent my time off. There'll be pictures of food. I don't know if I have any pictures of my dog for this past month, but there'll be some wonderful pictures of food. I'm going to be talking about some really great places to eat if you're ever in the Toronto area. And with that, I'll just say, hey, see you next time. Until then, let's all rewatch Avatar because that is a fantastic series to enjoy and to just break down and figure out why it is so amazing. And with that, let me just check out. No, I didn't really talk about that, Margaret. Sorry. I just mentioned it. Not really the topic of tonight, but it just sort of came up. Yeah. So that's all I got today. Join us next week where I'll be talking about Team Avatar, how to write teams. With that in mind, I will see you all next week. Thank you for coming on tonight and just hanging out. So, peace out. See ya.